Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Amanullah Sand. I facilitate virtual programs at Teacher Development Webinars. I welcome you all at Teacher Development Webinars. Teacher Development Webinars is a social action project implemented by British Council Active Citizens in Pakistan as a response to COVID-19 crisis. It is an initiative to support teachers and educators around the world with professional development opportunities. We are thankful to Master English Training for sponsoring a Zoom account. And for our today's webinar, online testing will be focusing on a variety of ways that can be used to test your students online in as controlled and secure environment as possible. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Glenn Standish for this webinar. Glenn Standish was originally born in New Zealand, but was brought up in Saudi Arabia and the UK. He has been teaching English in Poland for almost 18 years and is the Director of Studies of IHTON. He is also Cambridge FCE and CAE Oral Examiner and tutor. He has written articles for several teaching magazines and enjoys presenting on the conference circuit. Thanks very much for being with us at Teacher Development Webinars. Glenn, we welcome you here.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you can share your screen now.
Okay, I certainly will. Here we go. Okay, so over to me. So hello everybody and greetings from cold, wintry Poland. It's just gone 10 o'clock in the morning here and yeah, it's pretty grey and miserable outside. And I like to say hello. As I've just been introduced, I am Glenn Standish and I'm the Director of Studies here at International House Torun in Poland. And today we're going to be talking about online testing, something which probably about a year ago, we probably thought was never going to happen. You know, we're used to obviously face-to-face testing, but of course, COVID-19 came along and kind of changed everything. So there's obviously a lot of focus in webinars at the moment on online teaching, and testing, of course, is important. So the big question is, why should we still test? Why should we test online? Well, to be honest, the answer is pretty obvious. First of all, it is crucial to maintain some form of continuous assessment throughout the academic year. We do it in face-to-face lessons, so we should still be doing it with online lessons as well. Secondly, when it comes to tests, certainly here in Poland, I'm not sure what it's like in Pakistan, but certainly sure here in Poland, students and parents still expect to be tested. They expect continuous assessment. They expect unit tests at least once every unit, or maybe twice, 2 units per test. So it is, expected. So, when we came online back in March, it was something where, first of all, we were focusing on, okay, let's try and get the program up and running. Let's teach and try and maintain online teaching. But then, of course, we needed to also look at online testing. I think thirdly, just move on. When it comes to the end of the academic year, it's also crucial to determine, obviously, the next year level. Of course, right now, I don't know what it's like in Pakistan, but here in Poland, we are just coming to the end of the first semester. So there will be some mid-year testing, and then we'll be starting the second semester at the next month after the winter break. And the end of the year will be sort of in June time. Okay, so basically, the crucial thing, the key factor in testing is validity. Because if the test is not valid, then there's absolutely no point doing it. So in other words, if your students will do a test at home, because let's face it, most of our online students are coming from home, they're in their room, they've got access to the internet, they've got access to books, well, of course, they can cheat. And if they cheat, there's absolutely no point doing the test because we need to have valid scores. So validity is important. Having said that, it's easier said than done when you are testing students online. And as I just already told you, they're coming live from their home. How do we make the test secure and valid? So what I've basically been doing over the last few months is I've done some research. I've been looking online at different platforms to test students, both younger learners, teens, and adults. So let's have a look at some of them. Okay. Before we do that, sorry, it is important to provide rules and clear instructions to students before you do the test, especially with younger learners. Yeah, you can't just go straight into do the test. They need to understand exactly what's expected of them and what they have to do. Okay. So yeah, in some cases we've had some tests where we've had like a mock test first of all online, just so that parents and children know exactly what to do. Now, first of all, I think it's essential that obviously any distractions, things like phones, pens, pencils, stationery, brothers, sisters, siblings, keep them away. Okay, so turn off your phones. The students shouldn't leave their computer. Okay, they need to put their books away and they need to physically show you on camera that they're putting their books away. Okay, for younger learners, not adults, but young learners, make sure they go to the toilet beforehand, before the test, and so forth. So you're trying to create a very secure environment where there's not going to be any distractions. And of course, cheating, is not tolerated in the exam, in the test. So, as I mentioned earlier, I did do some research and I looked at some different test platforms. I'm going to show a few of those, okay, and then I'm going to focus in more detail on one of them, which is particularly my favorite. Okay, so first of all, there's liveworksheets.com. I'm sure a lot of you know this website. It's a great website where basically you can create your own worksheet on using Microsoft Word, and you put it into the website and it becomes live. So in other words, students can interact with it, which is fantastic for consolidating language and for consolidation activities. So something like this, for example, a worksheet, and the students can actually physically go and touch on each box and move the words into each box. Okay, so it's interactive, it's fun, it's good for young learners. Okay, and I'm sure a lot of you have already used these before. Okay, so advantages of live worksheets. So first of all, very easy to set up. Yeah, as I mentioned, you basically create the worksheet using Word or similar. You upload it, it becomes interactive. It's fun. Younger learners love it. Okay, and it's not just easy to use, it's quick to create as well. So this is fine for some fun consolidation activities on the spot. Yeah, but it's not secure. So if you want to do a formal test, then it's not really the best thing. It's fine for a little bit of revision and a bit of games, but not if you're going to be formally recording the scores. So cons, yeah, it's difficult to say the results. Hence why you wouldn't really do that. It's not secure, yeah. And also sometimes, yeah, we've noticed, certainly in the last few months, if you're sending links on Zoom, sometimes it's quite difficult for students to actually click on the link, and it doesn't actually appear as a hyperlink. So sometimes, there are difficulties sending links on Zoom. I'm sure you've experienced that as well. Okay, I can see there's lots of questions coming up in the chat box. That's fantastic, guys, brilliant. We will have some time at the end for Q&A, so please do feel free to ask me some questions at the end. Okay, so that was live worksheets. Another one I'm sure you know, of course, Google Docs. There's also Google Forms as well. Google Docs is very similar to live worksheets, where you basically create your own test in Word and then you convert it to Google Docs and the students can input their answers. Okay, something like this. So this is, for example, taken from a course book. It's actually a ready-made course book test, and you convert it into a Google Doc so it becomes interactive and the students can write their answers just basically like they would in a real life test, where they would actually write their answers on the worksheet, the printed test. Pros, again, very easy to use for younger learners and low levels. This is the issue with younger learners, you know, doing things online, doing a test online can be very stressful for them. And particularly trying to explain in English to low levels can be quite difficult. So you do need something simple for younger learners, but simple and secure together is quite a difficult combination. Very easy to create. You simply copy the test and you convert it into Google Docs, and then of course you send the link. Okay. However, if you obviously send the link to that one document, it means all students will be inputting the same document, and that basically causes one of our biggest cons when it comes to Google Docs. I'll show you that in a second. Yep, it's easy to save the results and very easy to mark the test. So there are quite a few pros. I think more pros with this than Liveworksheets, certainly as a formal test. Okay, so yeah, basically, in order for the students to have their own test, you need to make copies and duplicate copies of each and every test, and then send the link to each student. And that is time consuming. It's a hassle, okay? Because basically you need to copy that link, you need to paste it and send it to each student privately. And that takes time. What are the other 11 students doing when you are sending that link to the one student? Certainly with younger learners, it can create some classroom management issues. Okay. And as I've already mentioned, there are sometimes some hyperlink issues with opening Google Docs and other documents through Zoom. Maybe on a different online platform, it might be better. Okay, so we've looked at Liveworksheets, we've looked at Google Docs. There's also Google Forms as well. We're certainly using that with our younger learner classes at the moment. I'm sure you know Google Forms. You basically create the test using Google Forms, and that's great because you don't have to make copies of duplicate versions for each student. They just use the same, so that's great. The only downside with Google Forms, it is very time consuming for the teacher to make the test, because you can't just copy the test from the student book. You have to make the test from scratch. Okay, obviously once you've already made one test, then you can make a copy of that and tweak it and edit it for future tests. So once you have already made a test, yes, it's probably going to get quicker to make it, but it can be quite time consuming at the beginning. Okay, so now we're going to spend quite a bit of time focusing on the platform I like the most. Okay, and that is Examnet. It's a Swedish website. I think it was originally set up for universities in Sweden. Okay, so it is pretty secure. Okay, and it looks something like this. Okay, this is what the students will see. I'll give you a bit of a live demo later. And we use this platform at the moment here at International House Toren with basically kids, teenagers, and adults from pre-intermediate and above. We found anything lower than pre-intermediate, it's quite challenging for them, and it does look quite complicated at first. Okay, so basically the pros. So it is ideal for formal testing. It's as secure as it's going to get here online. Of course, nothing is 100% perfect. Okay, if a student is going to cheat, they're going to cheat. Okay, but this is as secure as possible because with this website, the student has to be just on that website. They cannot use any other website. If they try to look at another website whilst they're in the test, the teacher will be informed. A little box will pop up and it will tell you that so-and-so has lost focus and will not be following the test. Okay. Of course, that can also mean there are internet connection issues if they've lost focus. Doesn't necessarily mean they are looking at another website. But of course, if you have a weaker student who consistently get quite low scores and suddenly they go and do this online test and they get a great score and they've lost focus, well, then you can obviously challenge that. Another good thing about this is listings can be uploaded. Okay, there's also an option for mobile phone users, because we mustn't forget that sometimes our students are not joining our lessons on a laptop. There are actually some of them joining us using mobile phones, smartphones. And yet there is an option where they can actually write their answers on a piece of paper. They then scan a QR code using a mobile phone, and what they've written will then be uploaded for the teacher to see. And it is very easy to mark. I will show you how to mark it later. There is an option, I haven't actually seen it yet, but apparently there is an option where there is actually self-marking. So the website will actually automatically mark for you, which is, you know, that's a blessing, because you know how long it takes to actually mark tests and homework and writing and things like this. Yes, lots of time spent on marking for teachers. Okay, now cons. It does look very complicated at first. Yet, as I told you already, this website, this platform was designed for universities and other fields of education, not specifically for English teaching. So there's a lot of things there. There's a lot of functions and features that us English teachers don't actually need to use, okay? And this QR code will help you because what I did a few months ago was I created a guide for English teachers how to use Examnet, okay? And by all means, guys, if you have a smartphone, please scan that QR code now, and it will take you to a PDF of a guide that I wrote specifically for English teachers. So whilst it might look complicated, don't worry, because a lot of those functions and features we don't need to use. And my guide will help you to focus on the things we do need to use with Exam.net, okay? Another con, yes, as I mentioned earlier, is not really suitable for low levels and younger learners. So really the CFI level A2.2 pre-intermediate and above, it works much better, okay? There is another con as well. Exam.net was completely free during COVID, which was fantastic. But basically, as of December the 31st or the 1st of January, they will start charging now, which is a shame because obviously there are many countries still in lockdown, and obviously, you know, COVID cases are increasing. So, but at the moment, it looks like they will be charging schools, not individual schools, from the 1st of January. And the cost depends on how large your school is. So if you've got quite a small school, then you know the cost will be quite low. But obviously, the more students you have, the more expensive it will be. Okay, so what I wanted to show you now, guys, is I'm just going to demonstrate what it looks like on Exam.net, and then afterwards, I'm sure you'll have a few questions you'd like to ask me, and do feel free. We'll have a bit of a Q&A session. If you couldn't scan that QR code earlier, don't worry. At the end of the webinar, I will give you my email address, and feel free to send me an email and I will send you a copy of that PDF. So don't worry, okay? So anyway, let's have a look at the website. So bear with me. Okay. So fiddly with Zoom, lots of buttons I need to press. Okay, so this, guys, is Exam.net. Okay, I've uploaded a demo test just to show you what it looks like. Now, when students are in the test, this is the page that you as a teacher will be on. It's the surveillance and results page, okay? And on the left-hand side, you will see at the moment there's only one student, the test person in the room, but you will see that eventually you would have, like, you know, the number of students in your class would enter, okay? And basically, in order for them to actually enter the test, I mean, first of all, you need to upload the test, and it's very easy. You literally just upload it as a PDF. Okay, it's uploaded the PDF, and then you'll see here there's this exam key. Yeah, each test is generates a new key for your students. Okay, and the great thing about this is, let's imagine you have multiple classes at the same level. Let's say, I don't know, 5 or 6 different classes at the same level. So you can first of all upload the test for all classes, yeah, and then make copies of that class for different classes, and you can assign different teachers per class as well. Now, in order for the school to register, it's best for the director or the director of studies, the academic manager of the school to register, and then the teachers can join this website using a company email address, not using Gmail or anything like that. Okay, so anyway, let's imagine we're in the class now, we're on Zoom, and first of all, we will send the link of Examnet to the students in the chat box. Okay, so they click on the link, and then you would send the code. So for example, in this case, NNABSJ. Maybe some of you would like to try that. You certainly, or you can welcome to do that. You go to exam.net now, and you can click on student and enter your details, and then enter the exam code. Make sure it is case sensitive, so it's lowercase nn, capital A, lowercase b, capital S, capital J. Okay, so students will be coming in on the left hand side. Okay, and when the students come in, this is what they're going to see. So I'm just going to open this up now. Hopefully you can see this. Okay, so they will see something like this, and they click on begin exam. Okay, so they will see the PDF version at the top, and at the right, at the bottom here. Now, I personally prefer to have it on the left. So what you do is the student will click on side-by-side view, and there you go. You've got the questions on the left-hand side. You've got a blank screen on the right. Difficult to see the questions. So what you do is you just grab the yellow bar in the middle, and you drag it right or left as seems fit. Okay, and so the students literally write the answers in the blank. Okay, so for example, listening, number 1. Okay, I think the answer is, let's go, I don't know, I'm not listening to it, but let's say it's 1B, and then 2 is A, and 3 is B, B again, and 4 is C, and so forth. So they're writing the answers on the blank page to the right. But you say, well, hang on a minute, there's a listening. And it's always best to start with the listening first. Now, on the left-hand side, you can see there's a teacher chat function. So students and teacher can communicate using that chat function. Okay. There is the submit exam button there. One con, well, I wouldn't say it's a con, but the thing with exam.net is it's best to close Zoom whilst the students are doing this, because of course, as I told you already, it's secure. And if the students have Zoom open, it's going to keep saying that, you know, student has lost focus, student has lost focus. So it's best to close Zoom, okay? And students communicate with the teacher using the teacher chat function on the left here, okay? And you can see, you can type here and you can communicate with the students that way. Okay, but as I said earlier, there's a listening. And yet, well, how do they listen to that? Well, right now, there's no audio file on the left-hand side, okay? However, let me just close that for a second. Okay, oh, hello, I can see there's a few people joined us. Hello, people. So what you do as a teacher, you click on the person. So let's click on test person, and you click on settings, and then here you see all these things here. To be honest, Swedish dictionary, multilingual, these are not necessary for our lessons, okay? But anyway, look, audio files. Click on audio file and make sure it's activated, and then you should see, look at this. Suddenly, the audio file has appeared on the left-hand side, and the student just clicked on that, and then clicks fetch, and then play.
Today we're talking about extreme sports and why people might.
But then the listening starts playing. And the joy about this is that the teacher can activate and deactivate the listening as and when they seem fit. So normally in a test, a student listens to an audio test, twice, should we say? So let's imagine, the audio file is about 3.5 minutes. So twice would be about 7 minutes. So you can allow about 10 minutes. Okay. So then after about 10 minutes, you go back, click on the person, and you then go to audio file and you deactivate it, and you see it has disappeared. Okay. And I can do this with the other guys who are actually in the room. So Manel, for example, I can activate and they'll be able to see it appear and then deactivate it and it's disappeared. So that also makes it valid, because if students can listen to the same listening multiple times, it's not fair. Okay, so students really should have the same amount of time given to listen. And that also makes it secure. It makes it valid, which is great. Okay, so go back to the surveillance and you'll see the names of the students here. Go back to test person. Oh, one other good thing about this is if you click on student answer, you can see, oh, remember I was typing in earlier the answers to the listening. You will see that they do appear live as the students go on. So the teacher can sit and survey and basically see where the students are in the test, okay, which is also a very, very good feature, because obviously some students finish earlier than others. Some need to take a bit longer. Okay, so we go back to the main page. Another good feature as well with Examnet is you can actually set a timer so the students can see how long they actually have. And it's very easy. Let's imagine you've got, I don't know, 30 minutes for this test. So you click on the clock, you literally just enter 30 and you set the time. And now you will see, there you go, it's just counting down from 30 minutes on the left-hand side. That doesn't mean that the test is going to stop and kick out the students at 30 minutes. If you do have a few students who are still got a little bit of time, you can obviously add a few extra minutes. That's not a problem, but it just gives them a bit of time and it helps them focus because they know how long they have. Okay, so that is basically Exam.net. When the student has finished, they click on submit exam. Okay, there you go. And you'll see now there's a green tick next to test person because it means they have finished. Okay, now when it comes to marking the test, as I told you earlier, there is an automated marking version, but I haven't actually explored that feature yet. But with this one, what you do is once you have everybody's test finished with the green ticks, you click on download Word files. Okay, and click on download. And there you go. You'll see that on the left-hand side, they have all been downloaded as Microsoft Word documents. And I will show you one that I had earlier. Just give me a second. Okay. So it looks something like this. This is what an example of one of my students when they did the test. The name's automatically here, and the great thing is it's saved as the name of the student as well. So each student has their own Word document saved, so their own file saved. Okay, it has the name of the test, the teacher, the class. Okay, and what I do basically, if they have not made a mistake, I do nothing. Okay, so I just leave it blank. If it's correct, I do nothing. But if there is a mistake, I highlight it in yellow. I mean, this is how I do. Of course, teachers can do it any way they want. I prefer yellow. I found red is a bit too harsh, but yellow stands out quite well. So if they've made a mistake, it's yellow. And just looking at that, I know immediately that they've got 5 out of 6 correct. So they'll recall that that they got 5 out of 6 for listening. Okay, then I go through the others. So vocabulary, this student did very well. Actually got was it 14 out of 14? Brilliant. And then grammar, there's a few mistakes here. So I would highlight the mistakes in yellow. The red one is because there was a spelling mistake there. But generally, I would just mark it in yellow, and then I would input and then do the total, and I write the total here at the top, 73%. Okay, our pass mark here at International House Tour is 60%. So that's the idea. Yes, you know, I don't think there's ever going to be an absolutely perfect alternative to face-to-face testing, but you know, we were all thrown in to online teaching very suddenly, very quickly, and it's amazing what we can do with online lessons. I'm sure a lot of you are teaching online at the moment, and you know, there's lots of pros, there are cons, but there are lots of pros. And you know, testing is something I strongly believe that we should still be doing, even in an online environment. And I believe that Exam.net is one of the most secure websites to test students. It's not 100% foolproof, but it is the next best thing for this period whilst we are online. Okay, so that's the end of my at least showing you the different things with online testing. But as I told you, there's my email address if you didn't manage to open the QR code. Okay, so do please, you know, drop me an email at standish.toran@inthouse.pl. But I am now available for questions, and I can see there's like loads. There's about 39 things in the chat box. So let's have a look at the chat box and see. And if anybody has any
very much, Glenn.
Thank you.
It was, you know, thanks for sharing all these resources, and you know, it was very useful for all the teachers, especially, you know, as we are dealing with this virtual mode of teaching. So yeah, now the floor is open for questions. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. I'll be, you know, checking these questions. And
okay, let's have a look. Okay, so Manel says, is it possible to time tests? Yes, it is. But you know, there is that function that I showed you earlier where you literally just put in the timer and it will tell the students how long. It doesn't automatically, you know, calculate exactly how long they took though. Okay, but it's it does give you the timer. Okay, so I can hear some background noise. Okay, another question. What time is allocated to accomplish test? Okay, no, I don't know any platform. Well, basically, I think what you're trying to say is, you know, is there a website will stop and kick the student out once that time is allocated? Not that I know of. However, maybe there is a possibility with Exam.net. I need to explore that. I'm not entirely sure. Now, when it comes to the security of this website, that you can change the settings. At the moment, if it thinks a student has lost focus, it just notifies the teacher. But there is another setting. You can actually kick the student out if it believes the student is cheating. So, you know, it depends how secure you want it to be. Okay.
Easter asks, can we prepare our own test materials at Exam.net for online testing?
Absolutely, of course. Yes, yes, yes. Anything that can be uploaded as a Word document or, you know, as a PDF. Absolutely, it's fine. Okay. That's Haymar's got a question. It's quite difficult. And how are the validity and reliability of the test measured? Well, that's difficult. You know, we are in an online scenario at the moment. It's extremely difficult to measure to make sure it's 100% foolproof. But the fact is, it's secure in a sense that we know if a student has lost focus. You can limit the time of the listing audio files and things like this. It's as secure and as reliable as it can be. Okay. And to be honest, we've noticed that the students have not been cheating. Their scores right now online are just as consistent as they would have been on face-to-face testing. Okay, so
there's this question from Noshin as well.
Yeah.
She asked what is the difference between reliability and validity? What is do they overlap?
Yes, they do overlap. Absolutely. Yes. Is it valid? It means basically in this sense, is it a good test? Are the scores valid? In other words, have they cheated or not? Reliability. Is it focusing on all the aspects of testing? Is it focusing on vocabulary, listening, and so forth? For example, in terms of reliability, if the listening was just there all the time and they could listen as many times as they want, it's not that reliable. Okay, because of course, some students can listen as many times as they want, some can't. However, of course, you do give a time limit, and there's only a certain amount of time that they can listen, of course. Okay, how can we be sure whether the real student is involving in the test? That's a good question. As I said, it's not 100% foolproof. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, in Poland, they're not being, it's going to be obvious it's not going to be somebody else. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's no, it's not 100% reliable. You don't know. You don't know. Okay, let's see. Is there any more questions? I'm just scrolling up. Okay, how can we access Examnet? We don't have personal organization email. Good question. I think you do need to have a company email address. So obviously that's something you need to check with your with the director or the principal of your school. Okay. Any more? Right. Many questions. They get fantastic. I really appreciate questions. I do like questions. What's the best timing extension to use with Google Forms? Do you mean how long is best to have for a test on Google Forms? Is that what's meant with that question? I think it was Gabriella who wrote that. I mean, of course, the length of test.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think the length of test depends on the actual test. Of course, if it's an end of year test, it should be rather long, like 60 minutes, I think, minimum. But, just for a unit progressive continual assessment test, I would say like anything between 30 to 40 minutes. It also depends on the level. It depends on the book as well. Our tests are based on unit tests from the book, from the course book, and some course books units are much chunkier than others. But I think, we've been finding with Google Forms probably about 30 minutes at the moment. As I said earlier, Google Forms we're using with younger learners. So obviously we don't want to spend too much time testing. We found with some younger learners, it can be a very, very stressful experience. And, we don't want too many tears in class. Okay, any more questions? There's lots of hello greetings. It's great to see so many people from different countries. We have
lots of appreciation for your session.
Thank you. Yeah, yes. We have like from India, from Mongolia.
We are totally diverse and global audience.
That's fantastic. I see there's somebody from Romania. That's really interesting because for the last few summers, not this summer because of COVID, but I was actually teaching. I've been teaching at a summer school in Romania. So I know Romania very well. So hello, Romania. Nice to see you. Okay. Any more questions? Lots of thank yous. Thank you. It's great to be here. My pleasure. Okay, can I conclude that online testing doesn't always have a reliable result score due to the unknown reliability or knowing who is answering despite the fact? Well, yeah, I mean, you don't know who's going to be doing it. Of course, one pro with Google Forms and Google Docs is you can see the student on camera, okay? But we had an issue with some of the younger learners when they did it first time on Google Forms, that some younger learners actually had their parents off camera with them. And of course you couldn't see the parent, but you could hear a little bit of whispering going on. And that was unfair. That was definitely unreliable because the stronger students in the class actually got lower marks than the weaker ones. So that is, yeah. So we made that test a mock test and we didn't actually record the scores. Yeah. As I said earlier, it's not 100% foolproof, but it's the next best thing for the situation we're in. We are in an unprecedented situation where we're all being thrown into online and we do need to test students. So whilst it might not be absolutely 100% reliable, it's certainly 90 to 95%. Okay, any more? I think that's about it.
That's great.
Okay,
I
well, thank
don't
you.
see any more questions. So yeah, thank you very much, Glenn, for wonderful resources and this interactive session. Lots of appreciation for your session, as you can see in the chat box. And yeah, so this webinar recording will be made available on Teacher Development Webinars YouTube channel later this evening. So if you have missed this webinar, you can watch it, and the recording will be available on Teacher Development Webinars Facebook page as well. So yeah, there are opportunities for you. For our future webinars, you can always join our social media channels, or if you have any questions, you can email us at teacherdevelopment.webinars@gmail.com. Twitter handle is TD Webinars, so you can follow us at Twitter as well, following the hashtag TD Webinars. And at this point, I always remind you that COVID-19 cases have been on rise. So please, practice physical distancing, keep wearing masks, and don't forget social solidarity. We appreciate all of your presence and participation. Thanks very much, Glenn. And yeah, take care. Bye bye. Stay safe,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye bye.